They were both skinny and they were both tall and they both were from Illinois. Both were exceedingly great lawyers, and it played into their public sphere in the sense that they were trying to win over a jury all the time when they spoke, not just berate somebody with their ideal.
I think they both have very cool temperaments. I think they both have wonderful senses of humor. I think they're both reserved in a certain way. I think the most obvious difference between them is that Obama was superbly educated at Columbia and Harvard. Lincoln was self-educated.
Lincoln and Obama shared a love of words, a belief that rhetoric and oratory can change people's minds, and the way that they would express things, the confidence they would have in a debate, not by fiery oratory, but by a kind of calming presence, by a reasoned argument.
Both of their buzzwords, although Lincoln expressed it less often, was change. But he also was the first president in history who had been elected on an anti-slavery platform. Even if it was only anti-slavery extension, he was the first candidate who expressed his refusal to allow slavery to move into the West unobstructed. And that was a major change. And that was the change to which the southern states reacted.
I mean, Lincoln came in a time of civil war where a country completely divided. We are not a divided nation now. He just won a landslide election, Barack Obama. Lincoln did have to have a bit of a team of rivals because he didn't win the majority of the vote.
Obama, who won only 53% of the vote, is nonetheless coming to office on the crest of enormous goodwill and enthusiasm and generally unanimous aspirations for his success, which is totally different from the Lincoln experience, when half of the country just rejected him before he could say a single official word.
Barack Obama stylistically is more like Lincoln than it's about a negotiation. We all know he's coming from a progressive tradition, but he wants to hear the other side's arguments and kind of find some centrist neutral ground which to operate, while not necessarily abandoning his core convictions. That's very Abraham Lincoln.
On that day that Mr. Obama spoke in Springfield at the opening of the Lincoln Presidential Library, he spoke about Lincoln's unfinished work, the phrase that Lincoln used at the Gettysburg Address, and talked about fulfilling and finishing the unfinished work. One can argue that it's not completed, but this election, this inauguration, goes such an enormous step in completing that second half of the American dream that was unfulfilled until the Civil War, and then largely put on hold until the Civil Rights Revolution. So now another major step, and one can look to Lincoln as the beginning that Obama identifies with so deeply.
The key thing to keep in mind about Abraham Lincoln is every president worships him, because no matter how bad or dark the hours are going to get for Barack Obama, Lincoln had it worse. I mean, he's sitting there in the White House surrounded by hostile forces in Maryland and Virginia, half the country just leaving the United States. Lincoln had it badly.
It's very hard to say who's got a tougher job. Is it the man who is facing a fiscal crisis worse than any since the Depression, and also the specter of nuclear war, terrorism, health pandemics, and all of the issues that a 21st century president has to deal with and hopefully solve? Or is it the president who is facing the destruction of the entire country that he's been elected to lead?
The Obama people are trying to present Barack Obama as a combination Lincoln, Kennedy, and King. What all three of those men have in common is a kind of a way of rallying the country together behind words. Historians find the much greater similarities to two other presidents, which aren't mentioned quite as much: Franklin Roosevelt in 1933, inheriting the Depression, and Lyndon Johnson coming in 1964 and launching these Great Society programs. But as long as Obama can be mentioned in the same breath with Lincoln, the #1 ranked president in American history, he's doing well on the public relations front.